A conversation can change your life. We are two ordinary women looking to have extraordinary and authentic conversations. Our desire is for this to be a place where all are welcome, to come as you are, willing to emotionally grow, gain confidence, and tap into your internal wisdom.
When you know and utilize your strengths, the capacity to be forgiving, kind, and encouraging is increased exponentially. We all have amazing strengths and positive attributes, so let's learn from each other. We are delighted you are here on this journey with us and hope you will invite a friend to join you here. Welcome.
I'm Connie Wilder with my podcast partner, Sue Riekels, and we are delighted that you are here. Today's episode, the content and the topic today is gratitude, an attitude of gratitude. How do we get more gratitude in our lives? And what is gratitude in the first place? We're going to tackle those things and more today. We're delighted that you are with us. Sue, I'm going to start with a question. So, what is gratitude to you?
It's a great question, and one that I think goes hand in hand, Connie, to thankfulness. However, it's still different. And so, can you be thankful without being grateful and extending gratitude? Possibly. So, I see gratitude personally as a action of thankfulness. So, you're actually doing something, whether it's to yourself or to someone else, saying it, extending it, some sort of action. So, Connie, in reverse, I'm curious because there is kind of this fluidity to its definition. What does it mean to you?
I love that. And I love that you're asking me a question back as well. An attitude of gratitude is about action, it's about having that attitude of gratitude. And gratitude is my favorite math. It brings me to my favorite math, which is counting my blessings. And if those of you who know me know that math is not my strong suit, and counting my blessings certainly is such easy math. It's easy math. And so while gratitude is this place of action and how do I add kindness and thankfulness to my own life and to other people's lives, how do I do that this week of Thanksgiving? That's part of my purpose here on earth and part of the purpose of this podcast as well, and part of the reason why you and I hit it off in the first place. And so, Sue, my question for you is, what are you thankful for?
Ooh, great question. Wow. There's lots of things that I'm thankful for. I think first and foremost are my family, my precious two boys, and my extended family as well, dear friends like yourself, and the others that I am blessed to have in my life. But I think just the relationships beyond those titles of friend or family is what I'm most grateful for, is the richness, whether it's the best of days or the hardest of days, that these are relationships where I feel held and I feel like I can also hold space for them. So in return, Connie, when you think of gratitude, maybe what it is for you, but also you mentioned this week being important in your journey with gratitude and extending that. Is there a way that you would like to share with us that you plan to extend gratitude this week as well?
Wow, I definitely feel the busyness of the holidays kicking in already. And I was at my sister's over the weekend. We did this gathering. We started a new tradition of making lefse, which is something my mom and my grandmother used to do and something I love. I love lefse, and I look forward every year to the Lord of Life bake sale. The Lutheran church, the Lutheran ladies make great lefse. And so we made some. We made some lefse yesterday, and it turned out pretty spectacular. And we had, gosh, I bet there were at least 10 of us around that table doing all the different steps, including boiling the potatoes, peeling the potatoes, ricing the potatoes, and then rolling it up and putting it in little patties and then rolling it out and then frying it up in the pan. Although there's no frying because there's no oil as well. So anyhow, the lefse turned out great. I had some this morning for breakfast. Starting new traditions is one way I'm doing that, extending gratitude. And the holidays are loaded. And so I think pausing is a great thing to do and to be mindful that I want to be so thankful for everyone who was there on Sunday, as well as everyone that I'm grateful for in my own life.
Beautiful, Connie. Thank you so much for sharing how it already has shown up, but how you're also going to be implementing it this week. You started to say something about, how even at your church, there is this ritual of making lefse. And I wanted to touch base on that of like different ways it shows up in culture, different ways it shows up in faith or beliefs or religion. Do you have any thoughts on things you've experienced in any of those? Culturally, it might be the lefse piece, whatever that is for you, Connie, that you'd like to share with us.
Well, it's a great point that you're making, Sue, and the lefse is one area that shows up, yet gratitude itself shows up in many cultures and in many religions as well. And I want to reiterate that all are welcome here. And so I would love to hear your expression of how gratitude shows up in different religions and different cultures.
Yes. And Connie, thank you for, again, making note that this is not about a specific religion. However, within religions and within cultures, gratitude can show up in different ways. And so I see that as, again, different ways of being. It might be just different types of prayer. It might be different rituals that you do with women versus men or as a community. It might look like a meditative experience. It might look like making lefse. And so I think it is really broad and there isn't a closed in definition of it. And I think it's just beautiful to recognize what each of you might have in your life where you're already extending gratitude, where these rituals and the richness of your culture is showing up, and just using gratitude within that.
Yeah, yeah, that's so beautiful. And how do we stay grateful? How do we stay grateful year round? Here's a specific holiday that centers around being grateful. We're in this holiday season now that we're kicking off Thanksgiving week with the holidays to quickly follow. And so, how do we stay grateful? And Sue, any tips or techniques that you have that you want to share with this audience?
Well, you've already alluded to mindfulness, Connie. And while it is separate, or at least I think of it as separate, it's also connected. And so we can easily make Thanksgiving into something that isn't gratitude because of the hustle and bustle and busyness, but it's really being mindful and slowing down, I think, and then extending that to others. So that action, so it's being present, but then extending it out, whether it's in words or it's in your cooking or it's in your opening up your home, all sorts of different ways to extend gratitude.
Yeah.
And Connie, in reverse, if you think about gratitude, I have a question. If you think gratitude can be extended out, if there isn't gratitude for you.
That's a good question. That's a great question, Sue. And so I feel like there has to be some self-love, some self-gratitude. We've got to be thankful. We get to be aware of what gratitude is in order to be robust with our extension of gratitude. And so there's so much to be thankful for. Thus my favorite math. That favorite math is counting my blessings. And my blessings are mine. They're mine and they're different from yours. It might be similar to somebody else's, but they're mine. And so my blessings are my family, the life that Eric and I have built. We're constantly reminded. And I'm also curious because I feel differently when I focus on gratitude. When I focus on gratitude, it lifts the noise. It makes the noise dissipate. It makes the noise go away. And so, wow, like, wouldn't it be great to focus on gratitude all the time? And that's not the reality of these darn human suits. Yet, my ability to focus on gratitude for myself is what gives me that robust ability to spread it with others I meet along the way. How about you, Sue?
Well, thank you, Connie, for that, because I think it does start here. And here's why. I'm going to take it back to neurology again. Studies show that the activity in our brain actually calms down when we extend gratefulness, when we are mindful in both of those things. So they've done studies of the brain under scan, under blood flow, and it shows it slows down. it also shows that we get the drop of all those good hormones like dopamine, serotonin. So every time we do this, our neurology benefits, and the person in which we're company with, their neurology gets the same. We're mirroring each other. And with that, they get this really good, feel good feeling. We also get it. So it's a win win. I just get all excited when, again, we know what it does to the body. Any thoughts on that for you, Connie? What have you experienced? If you have had an experience yourself where you could maybe even tap into, like, it changed how I felt, like you already kind of alluded to.
Well, I love that you brought the concept of neurology up. The human brain cannot focus on two things at one time. It can't do it. And so I love that our ability to focus on gratitude has these positive biological markers, if you will, that are going on neurologically for us. And so I love that. I'm trying to think of an example for myself of when gratitude just overwhelmingly took over. And I think that happened at my mom's service. My mom's service was incredibly well attended. And there was a moment in the preparation for her service the day before when me and all of my siblings met with Pastor Peter at Lord of Life. And I just wanted to freeze time because I was so grateful that everybody was there and we were all on our best behavior because we thought we had to be. I'm one of seven. And so all of us were there. One of my brothers was late, and that was okay too. We were there, and I just wanted to drink in that moment. And for me, that was a moment of great, great gratitude.
What a great example. Connie, thank you for sharing that. I know I've heard many stories about your mother and love that you could feel and experience the level of gratitude that all those in attendance shared, let alone those who weren't able to make it. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And that brings me to a point of having gratitude even after someone has passed, and tapping into gratitude while they're here, but then while they're no longer on this earthly life. Can there still be a level of gratitude? Because as you're sharing about your mother, I also lost my mother in the same year. And I find while I was grateful for her when she was alive, there's so many things that I am grateful for now that I've experienced since her passing. And just look back at her rich life and can easily say, thank you, Mom, for preparing me for this, or for preparing me to experience this the way you show it up. All of the things that now are showing up in me. So I love how gratitude lives on, is the other piece.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, Connie?
Just that it does live on. And, it's funny, I mentioned that two of my three sisters, we all met with our daughters. All the girls got together yesterday to make lefse. Well, yesterday was my parents' anniversary, and it was their 68th wedding anniversary, would have been their 68th wedding anniversary, and it was so cool to be together on that day. And so that comes to mind as well, just the gratitude I feel for my parents, both of them, because without them, we wouldn't be here.
So, Connie, thank you for sharing that, and how special that your parents had a long marriage when they were alive, but also that this tradition happened on a day that had such deep meaning. Can I shift gears a little bit and ask you, how do you think gratitude shows up in the workplace?
Wow. Or doesn't show up. Huh.
Yes.
Or do we have an opportunity for it to show up to a greater capacity? And I think that's where it lies, because if we could focus on gratitude in the workplace, wow, could some of that noise, some of that stuff, some of that Mr. A or Mrs. B who drives us nuts, maybe that noise would quiet a little bit. I'm not sure, but I think there's definitely room for more gratitude in the workplace. Sue, what are your thoughts?
I was just reading a study that the Harvard Business Review had published, and they said 59% of employees say they have never had a boss who truly appreciated them. Now, I hold some of that might be, again, their belief system, but still, that's a pretty high number. And then, secondly, over 50% admitted they would stay longer if they felt their boss appreciated them. And so those numbers to me make me pause and ask, number one, how can we do this better? Number two, they also talked about productivity. So again, I go back to my personal tagline of when you feel better, you do better. And so nobody does better when they feel worse. So if we spread more and notice the positives that are showing up at work, everybody has positive attributes. They're bringing something positive to the work. And if they're not, address those things. But there has to be some things, could be even really small. How can we start there? And asking good questions too. So that's some of my thoughts. Any thoughts when you think about ways we might even be able to change that in the workforce to elevate it up and make it more mindful?
That's such a great point, Sue. I mean, and that flashlight of gratitude on ourselves, giving ourselves gratitude and then noticing it in other people, or people who are on your team, and being mindful of that and being intentional about that is a great way to spread gratitude. It is. And so perhaps that might look like, okay, on Wednesdays, I'm going to call out somebody who I'm grateful for and be intentional about that call out. And that's one way to do it. One way.
I love that, Connie. And it is, again, that intentionality, because going back to that negative bias that I know we've talked about previously on here, that is what gets our attention always. It really takes intentionality to notice the positive. Another thing, and this is a little more organized, but I know my husband's business, they have this ability to award someone with points, and then from these points, they get to purchase something, but they have to write a reason why they're being acknowledged. And at least it seems like just that message alone has an impact. Because, yes, you get some monetary behind this, but I don't think that's the important piece. I think it's verbally saying or stating what you experience that this person did above and beyond and mattered to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, did that study talk at all about the results of having gratitude in the workplace and how it breeds a better end result?
They did touch lightly on productivity, and that, again, when you're feeling more connected and more appreciated, you tend to go that extra mile. You tend to step in differently and make sure you work hard. And I will say personally, I worked for a very large company, and then I went to a small to mid-sized company where I knew the owner and had direct connection with her, and she did this really well.
Mm.
She extended gratitude to all of her employees, and we were not that small, so she did a really beautiful job. And I tell you what, most everyone would go the extra mile to make sure whatever was needed, last minute stuff to get it done. And
Wow,
we more than doubled the business.
that is fantastic. That's fantastic, Sue. Oh my gosh. So do you think there's gender differences in the way gratitude is both expressed and accepted between men and women?
I'm not sure. I think it can be done well by both. I do think some individuals who, whether they've experienced it a lot in their childhood, might be better at extending it. The other piece that this study tapped into, and now this is just curious, is that they found that those individuals in a higher position tended to give less gratitude than those in lower positions. And their belief around this was the lower were looking to move up. So they extended gratitude to cultivate like better relationships in order to move up, versus those that were in the higher positions already were there and weren't trying to get anything, but almost like you owe me this, kind of in reverse, is kind of how they alluded to. And so I thought that was fascinating. Now, I'm not going to take a stance on that, but I think from management, whether that's entitlement or it's just I'm busy and I'm juggling all these balls as an executive, the importance still of extending gratitude, I think, is the key takeaway in this, and not comparing or not, like whether it's you're in a higher level or a lower level. Well, that's interesting information. I don't want to lose sight of the overall goal, and that is if you're lower, bosses need gratitude as well. Extend it. And if you're in an executive or a management level, pass it on down. Both ways are important. How about yourself, having been in executive roles all of your life? What are your thoughts?
Well, you mentioned earlier going the extra mile. What if we all did that? What if that was our norm, going that extra mile? And so I think that whether you're talking to the janitor or whether you're talking to the C-suite, there is room for gratitude. I completely agree. I completely agree with that. And is the gratitude, can it be given without any expectations, without any strings attached, so to speak? And can that be given? Can that authenticity be part of gratitude? It can be, and it takes that intentionality in a bunch of capacities.
And I think that unintentionality, Connie, I'm glad you brought that up, is the beauty of this, is when it's done with no purpose, just because you witnessed it, you experienced it, and you're wanting that person to know that. Anything else as we kind of start to wrap up for today that you would like our audience to hear when it comes to gratitude?
Well, I want to wish everyone an attitude of gratitude, which that is action in and of itself, and to have that gratitude towards yourself as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Connie. And I think with that, we want to invite each of you to extend gratitude here first to yourself, and then to extend it out to those around you. We would welcome hearing from you in a couple of weeks, a couple of months, as you continue to make this a practice of yours. And just let us know if you've noticed changes and what those changes are.
Remember, a conversation can change your life. We invite you to be the best version of yourself. When you feel better, you do better.
We welcome hearing from you. To learn more about us, suggest topics to be discussed, or to reach out to us directly, visit our websites listed in the notes below.